Welcome to Super Easy History. In this video I'm going to talk about the Union of Brandenburg and Prussia. So first of all, what is Brandenburg-Prussia? Where was it? When did it exist? Why is it important? And why on earth is there a hyphen in the middle of its name? We're going to come back to the third question towards the end of the video, but just to get us started with some background knowledge. Brandenburg-Prussia was a country in Central Europe, roughly here, that existed between the years 1618 and 1701. Its name is hyphenated because it was not actually a single state. It had two parts, the Electorate of Brandenburg and the Duchy of Prussia. So what exactly Brandenburg and Prussia were is complicated. They were unified under a single ruler, sort of like if the offices of the US President and Canadian Prime Minister were held by the same person. I just called them countries, and for our purposes that works fine, but keep in mind that Brandenburg was a part of the Holy Roman Empire, which is quite possibly the most confusing institution ever created by mankind, and Prussia was, for a time, technically a vassal of Poland. So who was in charge of Brandenburg-Prussia? Who had to deal with this mess of allegiances and keep the two parts of their state together? Well, Brandenburg had been ruled by the House of Hohenzollern for centuries, but in 1618, their ruler, Johann Sigismund von Hohenzollern, inherited the Duchy of Prussia. His family, the House of Hohenzollern, ruled Brandenburg-Prussia for its entire existence. First was Johann Sigismund, and despite being the man who created Brandenburg-Prussia, he didn't live to see all that much of it, as he died a relatively young man in 1620. He was succeeded by his son, George Wilhelm, who led Brandenburg-Prussia as Europe was torn apart during the 30 Years' War. The war was fought between Catholics and Protestants over influence within the Holy Roman Empire, though there are exceptions. Catholic France, for example, fought alongside the Protestants. George Wilhelm was a Calvinist, a participant in the Protestant Reformation, and did not believe in the teachings of the Catholic Church. However, he still aimed to keep his countries neutral during the war, despite a lot of internal pressure from members of his government to choose one side or the other. In 1631, George Wilhelm was forced to side with the Protestants after Sweden occupied parts of Brandenburg-Prussia and demanded that he end his neutrality. Brandenburg-Prussia fought as a member of the Protestant League until Sweden could no longer threaten them after their defeat at the Battle of Nördlingen in 1634. Brandenburg was economically devastated by the war, as both Protestant and Catholic armies had ravaged the land. Prussia, on the other hand, remained relatively undamaged and served as a haven for George Wilhelm until his death in 1640. While George Wilhelm stayed in Prussia, his government in Brandenburg changed sides and rejoined the 30 Years' War on the side of the empire. But his son, Frederick William, who had succeeded his father as Elector and Duke, quickly made peace with the Protestants. Upon the conclusion of the war and the signing of the Treaty of Westphalia, Brandenburg was expanded to include several new territories, most notably Eastern Pomerania, which gave Brandenburg access to the Baltic Sea. Frederick William was faced with the unenviable task of rebuilding Brandenburg after the 30 Years' War. He was fairly successful, and Brandenburg's economy grew under his reign. Brandenburg welcomed Protestant refugees from France who helped develop industrial knowledge throughout the country, and Frederick William made travel easier and safer throughout Brandenburg-Prussia by building infrastructure and creating a standing army. This army would see action in the First Northern War, a conflict between Sweden and Poland over influence in the Baltic. As a vassal of Poland, Frederick William was expected to fight alongside them, but as Poland lost more and more territory to the Swedes, he changed allegiances and swore fealty to the Swedish king. When the tide of war turned against the Swedes, though, he agreed to help Poland on the condition that they recognize the Duchy of Prussia as independent and assist him in taking Western Pomerania from Sweden. Frederick William's armies were successful as they overran Western Pomerania, but international pressure forced him to return the land to Sweden. In 1675, Frederick William tried again to annex Western Pomerania, so he fought alongside the Holy Roman Empire and Denmark against Sweden. Once again, Brandenburg was able to take the land, but, once again, it was forced to give it up in the face of international pressure. For his many accomplishments, Frederick William is known today as the Great Elector. His reign allowed for the expansion of his many domains and enabled his son, Frederick I, to eventually declare himself king in Prussia. So why then is Brandenburg-Prussia so important? Well, its rise foreshadowed a great upset to the balance of power in Europe. The descendants of the Great Elector built a European powerhouse in the form of the Kingdom of Prussia, which itself would evolve into the German Empire. Without Brandenburg-Prussia acting as a first step, the entire history of Europe would have been changed. Thank you for watching the very first episode of Super Easy History. If you want to see more videos just like this one, leave a like and a comment down below. If you have an idea for a future video, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave that in the comments as well.